Hey ratbags, welcome to a very special video today. What the hell is this? This is grounded cut content if it was built in Unreal Engine 5. Whoa. Yes, some of you guys might have guessed I'd be doing these types of videos. Now we have got Grounded 2 here. What could potentially come back from the cut content from Grounded 1, and who is going to do it better than the man that leaked literally 90% of this stuff? It is I, the master cut content leaker. For real though, I am taking a look at the creatures today, and I may take a look at other stuff or other ideas I want to see in Grounded 2 using some of the other cut content as a basis in future. But yeah, Grounded 2's on its way. There's so many concepts we know that they are going to be adding. Obviously, buggies, mounts. They tried it in Grounded 1. It wasn't really successful because one, technical limitations of the Xbox One, and I'm guessing other platforms, although they didn't know about that in the time. And two, the map was kind of small. It didn't really fit in with the story that they've made, and it felt like maybe a bit overpowered having mounts. So that's just one example of stuff that was cut from Grounded 1. They literally worked on it. That is now going to be in Grounded 2. But what about the rest of it? What about all these beautiful looking bugs showed off in actual Unreal Engine 5? I did this video, big shout out to the person that leaked it or showed it to me via Spicy. Can't lie, it was a while ago, so I've kind of forgotten. Obviously, we've seen a lot of the Grounded 2 creatures from the clips and the journo gameplay footage, and they do look great. Some of the bugs definitely have had a bit of a glow up, but these guys look really great. So are we going to see things like Silverfish finally in Grounded? Are we going to see the lizard? Are we going to see the earwig? Are we going to see water striders? Are we going to see leeches? And it's interesting to note that, yep, the obviously ant queens did make it, of course. So, a few things to note. The water strider here, this was one of the earliest things that was cut from Grounded. And shout out to the Reddit loser post stating that because I leaked some stuff, apparently they went and cancelled it. Not true at all. They'd already decided that some of this stuff wasn't going to make the grade. We only ever knew about it because they accidentally left it on the PTB for like a couple of days, and then we could go ahead and load up older builds of it to check it out. The water strider, of course, we had the water strider skates that were meant to help you get across the actual water, so that could make a good return. I think if we're going to have a larger body of water, which is a lot of speculation, that could be happening. The park is called Brook Hollow Park. A brook is like a large sort of mix of river and lake, I do believe. In my map overview video, I showed you guys there is actually a dead tree and a small pond here that leads out to a much larger lake or pond close to the wooden bridge. You can literally see all the lily pads and stuff. We don't think this is necessarily going to be in early access at launch and something we'll be playing, as it does look like some parts of the map that we're seeing already won't actually be there ready. I'm pretty sure they would have shown a little bit of that content, so they're probably working on much better mechanics for the underwater sections. Which has always been a bit of a criticism of Grounded 1, that once you explored the pond once, you never really needed any of your diving gear ever again. Use the shortcuts, go and obviously get the mussel sprouts, and only now and then pick up some resources from some of the bugs. But yeah, the water striders, they didn't really do much when they were on the pond. They would just sit around the actual lily pads. They could take damage and sometimes would obviously just rotate. Now this is obviously 5 years ago now. So definitely I think something worth revisiting to revitalise the pond areas, give us some more threats on the surface of the water, make them so that they do skim across, and that's what the legs will do. It would give us the opportunity to also skate across the water. I don't see these as a kind of mount creature. Much more interesting to have a diving bell spider like lots of you guys have suggested. That could be a really good one. I think Rosso gave me the idea first about using it as like an underwater submarine. But that's a better conversation for another video. So another cult cut creature, of course, is the leeches. We did all assume that a lot of this stuff would arise with the upper pond around Maldor's castle eventually. But of course it never did. Instead we got the spiny fleas. The devs, I do believe, just said it just didn't fit right. The leeches felt like just more of an annoyance or something along them lines. They did address some of this cut pond content. As said, they basically decided, yeah, it just wasn't maybe doing it. There was maybe too much going on already. In terms of creepiness, absolutely. If they move around like this, and apparently they were pretty hard to also animate the way they move. For a much larger pond, maybe more encumbersome with more natural ingredients from a big public park, you could definitely imagine it might be a bit more sludgy. So imagine some leeches coming out of the murky depths to suck on your face. I mean, you could just say, if you watched these videos from me before, yeah, let's have it all, we'll take it all. I don't really feel like there's too many bad ideas from the cut content. And I'm not saying this stuff is coming, obviously, but I am saying some of it could be a good idea for sure. A lot of the resources from these two creatures were used for some of the underwater tools, so things like the harpoon, which did have an actual model that you could spawn in alongside some of these actual harpoon bolts. I'm guessing devs felt like it was just too much hard work and like unnecessary, maybe wanting to make the water more dangerous. Although of course eventually we would get much better daggers to fight a lot of the creatures underwater, and of course lots of spears. But yeah, this is also really early stuff that got cut because they never really added some decent animations to it either. And for sure, much more rich environment in terms of more resources in the pond. One of their ideas was to have cattail fluff alongside a lot of the other stuff that we did eventually get. FYI, I still have this channel available in my Discord, so you want to take a look at all of this stuff yourself, come and join. We've got dedicated channels set up to Grounded 2 and the cut content, which I've made available for everyone to see again. But you also got to be a bit too careful having too many resources. Grounded players have got used to the loop from using a lot of bug parts. Overdoing it with things like Cattail would remove the need to maybe go and seek out fur or seemingly hair from other creatures. This is kind of what it would look like maybe in a smaller form once we actually picked it off of some of the Cattail reeds. I think this is an idea that won't return. The gameplay mechanic of trying to get on top of some of these reeds to maybe potentially shoot down these fluff balls and gather them is just a little bit tiresome. So the pond has probably been done to death a little bit in terms of ideas and what could happen. Other bugs that were cut, of course, were the earwig. Now, what does this offer to something like Grounded 2? We are seeing cockroaches, which are much larger, more fearsome. Seems to me that earwigs were very similar to the larvae. Since we had two different variants of that, three including infected ones, was it really needed for a small little skull-like creature? There were some test animations with these creatures that got revealed during the cut shed content. The back of their tails would pretty much just rise up and try and get you. And of course a shot of its actual sword, the earwig sword. Seems like Grounded 2's already got that covered with a revamp pretty much of every weapon. So yeah, maybe there'll be room for these guys now. Maybe there'll be more wood and kind of rotten wood, I suppose, that would maybe have more earwigs floating around it. I think the silverfish could be an interesting one as well, although it's similar, maybe in criticism, it could be too close to things like the larvae. The shape, the form, the way they move, and I think these also had the same kind of tail attack. But where they live could be interesting. It does look like it's going to be a lavatory added to Grounded 2 somewhere in Brook Hollow Park in the future during early access or with 1.0. Silverfish like damp areas. You might have seen a few in your bathroom sometimes from leaky pipes and stuff. And we did see these in the actual game again, all part of the shed content that was cut. With perhaps the biggest loss of not having these added is the actual shield. The silverfish shield looks crazy. I really like the design of this one. I won't yap too much about the ant queen since we've already got them in Grounded and we've got plenty of them, but will they make a return? It makes sense, right? If you're going to have more ants in another place, then of course they are going to have some baby mother somewhere. And I don't actually mind the mechanics if they have it very similar where you could make them friendly again, but we don't even know if we're going to get different varieties of ants. Maybe they're going to cut out the fire ants and black ants this time. Like what are they really adding? There was a bit of criticism from some quarters about the reuse of them as just more creatures instead of having something different like maybe earwigs or silverfish. But that said, ants do kind of go everywhere. You do have lots of different varieties, right, in small spaces sometimes. But the biggest interesting thing for me is if they can bring back factions. Now, we've got factional reactivity. Piss off the creatures, kill too many of them, stay too long in their home, then they'll send raids. And it does look like raids are going to be a thing back in Grounded 2, since we've already seen the mutation that lists it. However, during early access their roadmap, it did sound like they were trying to implement actual factions, and this is something Smallland never really got around to doing very well. Like, it'd be cool to see more battles and wars between different bugs. Like, imagine Red Ant Army going to war against the Black Ant Army. Could be a bit of a cutscene or like a special part of the game, just like in Skyrim where they all battle each other and you've got to either help one or the other. Originally, Grounded devs wanted there to be consequences for you killing certain bugs that would maybe upset the food chain, but the idea never really fully got explored. So that's definitely something I would like to see maybe in the future contemplated. But of course, the piece de resistance, the one that everyone and their mum wants to see added to the game, of course, is the lizard. Originally hidden behind, or underneath I should say, the sandbox, I mistakenly assumed they cut it because it would maybe show too much blood, and it was a bit different killing a lizard compared to just killing bugs, which may have raised their age rating for the game. Especially as when you was killing a lizard, I swear it wasn't actually revealing any kind of real blood. Like, you don't see blood from the game, only with the actual mosquitoes when they take it from you and you use the actual mosquito bombs. The heal bassers obviously are red, but you don't actually see any creatures bleed, I think, in Grounded. Technically, it's always like green gunk, because of course insects don't have hot blood. And a lizard, cold-blooded creature, I'm guessing this one. I don't know, I am not an expert on these things. I'm pretty sure they still have red blood. Anyway, that wasn't why they cut it. They cut it because it was just boring. The devs have said it just wasn't actually fun or interesting to fight it, the way that they implemented it at least. It would come out of its ground, maybe have a couple, I do believe, of antlions or black ant soldiers to fight alongside it. So it would stand there while you attacked it a few times, maybe swishing its tail, and then it would burrow into the ground again and then pop back up. The more creatures you have, the bigger problems you have with some of these being just too large in terms of scale. Lizards are fast. In reality, these guys would be moving around you so quickly and they'd probably just eat you in one go. But what about transforming it into actual geckos? Again, we've seen this from games like Smallland. They made their geckos actually rideable. Geckos would still probably be a bit too large in Grounded, but they did kind of rescale these lizards somewhat. I know you can find these ones that they are really small. But that's still an interesting premise if we did have actual lizards come back. But yeah, it's definitely a fan favourite. Everyone and their mum wants it added to the game, even if it wasn't fun, because it would give us access to brand new armour. Undoubtedly, it was a cool looking arm set, and that's probably the biggest loss that we didn't get to have this. I do wonder if any of the Grounded fans were Highlander fans, because it seems to be the bad guy's kind of helmet. Gives me that vibe at least anyway. And the spear, although we did get the Fonger spear anyway, but that would be the main reason that I would want this particular lizard to come back, is to get this armour. So there we go, that's pretty much it. I've got obviously tons of ideas for other bugs I want to see, but as always I want to hear your opinions. What bugs need to be added to Grounded? I'm so pleased to see the snail. We obviously have the snail shell in Grounded, and it was part of the concept art. They once considered it as something you could use as a boat. I know lots of you guys want to see things like hornets, and obviously I've speculated a lot on previous things like big spiders like Goliaths or hunter spiders. But yeah, put your ideas in the comments, come join Discord to take a closer look at some of this stuff. What could return from Grounded 1? Never quite made it, and how great would it be to maybe use some of these as mounts? That's something else to think about. And I'll see you for the best in news, previews, guides and more for Grounded 2 and the original next time. Bye bye.